Now I know who'll turn up to my funeral. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was Sir Winston Churchill who famously said, "In a war you can only be killed once, but in politics many times." With that in mind, it's with amazement that I managed to survive long enough to stand here at the dispatch box to offer my last contribution to this House. In many respects, this valedictory is 12 years in the making. Some would have preferred that time frame to be much shorter, but I accept that for the vast majority of Australians it's come way too early. For me, I'm drawing on that great literary character, Goldilocks, and say the time frame is just about right. Mr. Speaker, politics is a calling, one that I had at an unusually young age. It caused great distress amongst my family and friends, particularly when I announced which side I was going to bat for. But like all families, mine accepted my inadequacies, and I joined the Liberal Party 36 years ago, save a brief period early this year. Where's Maria? God love you. It's been a roller coaster ride and one which I've relished. So at the outset, I have to pay tribute to the woman I couldn't have done it without. The current Mrs. Elliott has been a champion. She's been an advisor, a chauffeur, a media monitor, and most effectively, a critic. Mr. Speaker, I said recently that the burden of public life is heaviest on those we love, and boy, wasn't I a burden. I particularly appreciated her loyalty and never took it for granted. Like the time I was warned of a rumour being spread about me by my political opponents that the reason I lost weight last year was because I'd taken a mistress. Completely understandable. Now, breaking that sort of news to a woman of Nicole's temperament was always going to be a challenge. Not made easier by the fact that she knew the real reason for my weight shedding. Sweetheart, thank you for wearing that gossip with dignity and, more importantly, not humiliating me by telling everyone that the real reason for my new diet was due to a dose of the dreaded gout. Now, that would have been embarrassing. Nicole's always been available to support me on my parliamentary duties, particularly when as a minister I couldn't go to every single school presentation. Not one to let the kids miss out, Nicole would often tag team with me at schools and front up to present awards in my stead. A few years ago, however, we had to pause this practice when I subbed her in at the Jasper Road Public School, only for me to make it to the school assembly in time for the last award. You can imagine my delight when, as her name was called to the stage and the school captain saw me approaching, announced, "Mrs. Elliott is being represented by her husband, David Elliott MP." Thank you, Princess, you're a keeper. To my sons Lachlan and William, I can only apologise so many times for making you grow up as political orphans. Mum tells me you're both at university, which is really great. It's great. Good on you. And I see on Facebook you've grown into really capable young men, so I appreciate that. Proof positive that having an absentee father can work. Hey, let's catch up in the new year. Mr. Speaker, my family would not be the sanctuary that it is without the guidance and support of my late father-in-law Fred and my mother-in-law Lorraine. Knowing that Lorraine would always side with me on domestic matters has been appreciated. And now that I'll be home a little bit more often, I expect her diplomatic skills to be called upon a lot more in coming years. Lorraine, please move in with us. But, Mr. Speaker, the tradition of the valedictory speech is one that allows politicians to boast about their achievements in office. And I'd be happy to do that, but I've only got the 1 hour. So I want to focus on the people I've shared the journey with. When Mike Baird appointed me as Corrections Minister, I was thrown into a working relationship with Commissioner Peter Severin. Now, this may come as a surprise to many, but I'd had no exposure to the prison's portfolio before I was made the minister. None at all. Save a wayward uncle, but I lost contact with him years ago. Peter, thank you for teaching me how to be a minister. Your patience and experience helped me to look like I knew what I was doing for a solid 4 years. And Peter, thank you for letting me use that rifle range on a Friday afternoon. No, it was good experience. Try the Russian-made grenade launcher, he said. It'll be a blast. What could go wrong? Mr. Speaker, my first term as Emergency Service Minister was a lot less active than my second, but it did give me the opportunity to travel the state and see the brilliance of our 200,000 salaried and emergency volunteer personnel. SES Commissioners Adam Dent and Carleen York have become personal friends, although I still can't look at either of them without first checking to see if my pants are wet. Mr. Speaker, Fire Commissioners Baxter, Mullins, Rogers and Fitzsimmons, what can I say? Never change. Your ability to install confidence in our communities when they are most vulnerable is a unique skill. Yours is a challenging vocation, one that I could never do. I don't think I've cried in the arms of a man more than I have with Shane Fitzsimmons. He always had my personal welfare front of mind and was particularly helpful when he insisted I go on a family holiday a couple of years ago. To Stacey Tanos, Steve Pearce and Mark Gibson, the way you motivate people and offer superior levels of operational support with limited resources makes me wonder if you would be better placed to serve the Treasury. Good luck in the future, and now I'm not responsible for your budget bids. I may even answer your calls first time. Mr. Speaker, to Mick Fuller, where do I start? Mick has conveniently found himself in Melbourne tonight, but we know he's very, very nervous about my tribute to him. In fact, I wager he's sitting in the corner of his hotel room right now, a once brave copper curled up into the fetal position, listening in like a member of the French resistance waiting for a coded instruction via the BBC World Service. The most recent time Mick had to investigate me, he actually said I was at risk of becoming his best customer. Luckily for me, he found all complaints to be vexatious and politically motivated. But Mick, thank you for being the Deputy Sheriff while I played out my Walter Mitty fantasy as our state's police minister. You're the sort of cop I hope my sons will become if they join the force. And Mick, thanks for giving me your badge. I'll put it to good use. To Rob Sharp, Matt Longlands, Howard Collins and all the team at Transport. Bloody hell, who was in charge before I arrived? Thanks for making it look like I fixed all the mistakes my predecessor made. To Carolyn McCannis and the team at Veterans, yours is the only portfolio I ever really wanted. My only stated career achievement was opening the Anzac Memorial renovations alongside Prince Harry and his wife. What's her name? Oh, the other one. The other one. To my personal staff, it's no secret around these parts that my office is the most professional, brutal, calculating, articulate and hard-working than any in government. They can swear like troopers and drink for Australia. And the blokes can hold their own too. Tracy and Vanessa in media, I warned you both that being a press secretary or an ex-press secretary would be a gruelling experience. I hope I met that expectation. And of course, my messaging was always assisted by our freelance media team, Ben English, Jason Morrison and Lyndall Somalis. Linda's an apology tonight, but I'll be writing her column later. To the policy team, John and Trish, imagine having to explain complex matters to a bloke who knows everything. To Anna and Levi, our departmental liaison officers, I never really worked out what you do, but the fact that you both do it with a smile on your face makes me very suspicious. To Vaish, I've only ever had 3 private secretaries over the last 20 years. You came at a difficult time, and therefore my gift to you is that you're the only one I won't humiliate tonight. Thank you for being a wonderful addition to Team Elliott. To my driver, Ross, I really, really hope and pray that you haven't kept a diary. When I inherited the seat of Baulkham Hills, the margin was about 10%. It's consistently returned to me with a margin twice that, understandably. And whilst this is not a surprise, there are two distinct reasons for that. Firstly, because I was never there. Secondly, because Kim, Leanne and Helen have dedicated their lives to making sure my constituents had everything they need. They were ably assisted by Raoul Jethy, Ken Norris and Samuel Uno, who managed to get me elected in spite of myself 3 times. Thank you. Now, to my Chief of Staff, Tanya. Everyone knows our formidable partnership is not over, not by a long shot. Nicole thinks you've suffered enough, but I don't. My ambition is to make your life as miserable as you've made mine for as long as I can, and given I'm 7 years from retirement, you're still in servitude until I say otherwise. Anyway, good luck getting a job with my name on your resume. To my previous Chief of Staff, Catherine, I'll never forgive you for leaving me and putting Tanya in charge. I would also like to pay tribute to the many union officials I've dealt with over the last 8 years. Stuart Little, Alex Glassons and the great Tony King of the Police Association. We've had some cracking fights, but I've always felt our meetings were respectful. But, mark my words, Alex, if you don't put that enterprise agreement to your members soon, I will resurrect myself out of the political tomb I'm about to be laid to rest in, and I will haunt you until you do. Mr Speaker, the last thing I want to do is pay tribute to some very special parliamentary colleagues who have made this journey just a little bit more bearable. The member for Seven Hills for his long-term friendship and his unique listening skills. Mark has the ability to hear a bar fridge open from great distance. It is nothing short of superhuman. To the member for Rockdale for his encouragement whenever things went pear-shaped. To the member for Castle Hill for his unfiltered enthusiasm in opposing everything I did as Transport Minister. To the members for Londonderry and Canterbury. For your courage in beating cancer whilst being mothers and partners, your battle should always serve as a reminder that our own problems need to be put into perspective. To the member for Penrith, here's to plenty more Sunday lunches. Nicole said we really enjoyed the last one. To the member for Northern Tablelands for your sage advice, the member for Pittwater for your intellect and dignity, the member for Prospect, who is always brutal but clinically accurate in his assessment of me. To the members for Sydney and Balmain for helping me find my sensitive side on the odd occasion. To the member for Ryde for his humour and patience in trying to show me the wonders of the interweb. Mr Speaker, to the ladies representing Port Macquarie, Holsworthy, East Hills and Miranda, thank you for chaperoning my young Anzac ambassadors on their overseas adventures over the past 8 years. I know you spent more time making sure certain Labor colleagues and I kept out of trouble than you did with our students, but as Humphrey Bogart said to Ingrid Bergman, we'll always have Paris. To the member for Campbelltown, Nicole's just happy I've left your evil influence. To the member for Granville, please delete all of our text exchanges. I have. I don't think Sydney could cope with that many truth bombs. Actually, that goes for about a dozen of you opposite. You know who you are. To the member for Swansea and Lismore, I'll miss your hugs. To the member for Cessnock for representing me at family functions in his electorate and for reassuring my family that I was one of his Labor colleagues. To the member for Lane Cove, like so many diggers, you've always been able to scrounge around for supplies when I'm under attack. I've particularly been grateful for your ability to light up a smoke for me whenever I'm stressed. It's great you've got me down to 3 packets a day. To the member for Lakemba for making sure I never left your electorate feeling hungry. But seriously, mate, where is he? He's not here. Seriously, mate, why do Lebanese always think there's a famine about to start? To the member for Hornsby, not here, no, I don't doubt him. To the member for Hornsby, whilst I'm reluctant to let you continue your parliamentary career unsupervised, I actually am forced to admit that your unwavering passion in advancing causes you believe in is a rare trait in modern politics. To the member for Epping. Right. So many stories I feel I should be putting on the public domain, but that cannot be aired, even under parliamentary privilege. Not until at least one of us is dead. So I'm going to leave you with this golf ball, Dom, because recreation is cheaper than procreation. Mr. Speaker, whilst I'm sad to leave the service of the House, I accept the circumstances in which I find myself. Let's face it, my guardian angel could only do so much. So I'll leave the House one last time with the thoughts of another great character of English literature. It was Winnie the Pooh who famously versed, "How lucky am I to have had something that makes saying goodbye so hard." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.